Wednesday, January 30th edition of the Carolina Weather Video. A whole lot to talk about today. Let's get right into it. Let's start off with a peek at the radar this morning. Now, at the time I'm cutting this video during the 5 o'clock hour, pretty quiet over much of the Carolinas. A few showers in the mountains and the foothills, but it's very active off to the west of us. There's all the watches and warnings in effect, again, at the present time. This is at 5:06 technically when I'm cutting this video. You have the red shaded counties, those are tornado watches in effect. The pink outlined areas, those are all tornado warnings. The blue outlined areas, those are all severe thunderstorm warnings. And it's all with this line of storms. It stretches from near Cincinnati down through Kentucky and just east of Nashville. A lot of tornado warnings in that part of the line. And then down to the parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and then down to Louisiana. Now, we're going to have to keep an eye today on this activity trying to develop out ahead of the main line through Georgia and Alabama as that lifts northeast. There's enough energy involved with this system that if we get any little bit of instability developing, which could very well happen, some of these discrete cells out ahead of the main line could produce some wind damage or an isolated tornado. And then we get the main line in here anywhere from the mountains late this afternoon into, or should I say later this afternoon, and to the Piedmont this evening. Now, there's your day one severe weather outlook, and I'll show you more on that coming up, but big slight risk from the Gulf Coast all the way up to Pennsylvania. Temperatures, look at this, very, very warm. Doesn't feel like January at all out there this morning, with 60s for all those temperatures out there, and we're not alone. Look at all the warmth in many spots across the region, even up into Cleveland. It is 61 degrees right now. Birmingham and Montgomery, it's 71. Panama City, it's 70. New Orleans, it's 73. It's going to be a warm afternoon ahead of this front. Now you see places in the Tennessee Valley cooling down. Behind the front, the warmth is into the Carolinas, but we too will get back into this chilly weather by tomorrow, and really Friday is shaping up to be a pretty cold day overall. A lot of us may be in the 30s or at best low 40s in the Piedmont for highs Friday. But let's talk about the severe weather. Again, let me kind of go to some of the modeling. This is what it looks like in the 500 millibar chart off the European early this afternoon. Pretty good trough swinging eastward, and that will still turn in somewhat of a negative tilt fashion as it moves into the eastern seaboard tonight. All right, let's take a look at some of the specifics here. There's a broad overview of the European model. This is the 18-hour chart, which is valid at 18Z this afternoon. And then you see that line of rain and storms advancing to the east. And finally, as we get on out to, let's see, this evening and the overnight hours, you see that line continuing to march further to the east. Now, instability values here, there's a look off of the NAM. There we go, this afternoon, and not a tremendous amount of instability, but some nosing up into the western Carolinas this afternoon, and then the instability wanes as we get into tonight. But there's so much forcing, we'll wind up with a line of shallow but very intense convection. Look at the winds at 850 millibars, about 5,000 feet here, just screaming all across the southeastern part of the country today. Those winds of 40 knots plus, getting to as far down as about 950 millibars. So that means it will not take much effort at all to work some of those winds aloft down to the surface. And we do have a wind advisory in effect for really much of the entire region. High wind warnings up in the mountains. Now let's look at some of the indices for severe weather. All right, here's a look. This is off the NAM, and this is the storm relative helicity. This is the surface to 1 kilometer helicity, and some pretty good values certainly. Helicity and shear not a problem. And there is some degree of 0 to 3 kilometer cape as we get into this evening. That's not extreme by any stretch of the imagination, but there is some there. This is your classic high shear, low cape type of setup. A couple more indices and charts for you. This is the significant tornado parameter. And again, these are not sky-high values, but they are there. And we're looking at some significant, some STP values here. And northeast Georgia, the upstate parts of North Carolina getting up over 1 as we head through this afternoon and this evening. And finally, the significant severe weather parameter. Again, it's a lot of different things I'm throwing at you here, but if you're familiar with these, that's one to show you. And you're looking at some significant severe weather parameters there getting over 20 or so in parts of the Carolinas as we head into this afternoon too. So these are not ridiculously high values, but they are enough that kind of raises some red flags. Now, at the time I cut this video, there's a look at the severe weather reports of the past 24 hours, and here is the latest day one. This is the early morning day one outlook, a big slight risk. Your probabilities here, there come the tornado probabilities, a 5% area from eastern Alabama up through the western Carolinas into southernmost West Virginia. And again, wind is going to be the biggest problem here. There's your wind probabilities, pretty significant. So I think we're definitely looking at a lot of wind, even outside of any showers or thunderstorms. And then any shower or storm that comes along will tap into those winds aloft. And I do think we're going to have a lot of wind damage reports across the region. All right, let me show you a couple more things before I wrap up the video. This is the RPM modeling here, and you can see that line of storms at 10 o'clock this morning continuing to advance further to the east. Now, here we go. As we get into this afternoon and this evening, we continue to see this activity try to develop ahead of the line. We're going to have to watch those discrete showers and isolated thunderstorms that develop ahead of the line for severe weather potential. And then again, we get this line of storms ripping through here as we go through this evening, followed by the return of that colder air. Now just look at the winds here on Stormcast. Well, I didn't really set that up correctly. Let me see if I can show you a little bit better here. All right, here we go. Let's run that through again. This is the wind product on Stormcast, and you can see just the winds cranking. These are sustained winds, upwards of 30 and 35 miles an hour, so gusts obviously a good bit higher than that, and that's not even really counting any thunderstorm-generated winds across the region. And finally, let's look at the rain with this system. There it goes. Look at the soaker in the mountains, 2, 3, maybe 4 inches of rain in some spots, and it still looks like a half to maybe an inch of rain or so for much of the Piedmont. So another good soaking rain event. And again, I think we're going to be looking at a lot of wind damage potential here, wet ground and the wind. Probably going to cause some problems across the region as we go through the day. So make sure today and this evening you have a reliable way of hearing weather watches and warnings as they are required. And of course on News 14 Carolina on television, where we'll give you complete weather coverage as necessary. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay safe and God bless.